All right. Theoretically, I am on the interwebs. Theoretically, it is working. Theoretically, I can resume the chore that I started earlier. Let's see if it's working. Maybe? Hopefully? Okay, well. Anyway, for the Nuns of Sword friends watching, because it's Sunday morning early and I should be doing other things, but I didn't finish this yesterday, so I'm going to continue. For those of you watching and for some reason tuning into the beginning, I am going to clean. I will try to ramble a little bit about each piece. I'll try to look back and see if there's questions. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I'm going to clean. It's just me doing chores. I didn't finish yesterday. Some folks asked me to continue doing it on stream, so here I am. I might as well make an event out of it. Today I have the most of the rest of it, at least the stuff that needs to be oiled. So for those that didn't see last time, just applying CLP. I haven't used any of these things for cutting, so this is not cleaning as in degreasing or removing rust or anything like a deep cleaning. It's just applying oil. Maintenance wise, I use CLP and a shop towel. I get these at Costco, or I use like an old t-shirt or something non-abrasive. White towels tend to leave scratches, so I don't use those. If you have any questions for me, throw them in the chat and I will try to look back and respond. My hands are going to get really oily though, so I'll probably miss a lot of the chat, or eventually I will. There's only a few people in right now because it's Sunday morning. That's perfectly fine with me. If you have questions, please tag the @MattJensen thing. That really helps me because it shows up as orange on my screen, and that's it. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Good news is I got some more swords yesterday to clean. Sword friend Ian sent me some stuff, so I will talk about that. You'll see the cold steel Kriegs eventually, and I will give you some initial thoughts on it. It's a hot take from this review, from this stream. For folks that aren't members, you might see some blades that I'm cleaning that I've made videos on that are in the like memory things, and there's larger videos there that will come out to everyone else in the not too distant future. And yeah, and I also got another sword, this Oriole right here, which I'll talk about eventually. But I'm gonna start cleaning, and that's my plan. Sword church, yeah. Hey Chris, you're up. Yeah, well, it's not that early. I get up at today I got up at 5, thanks to my little lovely baby boy who is wonderful but is awake too early. So yes, and you're not that early because I guess you're an hour ahead. So anyway, on with the chore. Let's actually try to get the work done today. One thing that I tend to do as I use these, you might notice my oil rag here that is saturated with this CLP stuff. On some of the nicer swords, I'll break out new towels because I don't want to add any rust contaminant, and I'll try to use a new towel with all that kind of stuff. But for blades that I'm less partial to or that may already have some rust, I have no complaints about using an already well-used towel. CLP is not, I'm cheap. That's basically what it is. So if I use new rags every time, then I spend more on CLP. So I try to keep an oil rag around, and that's what I'm doing. This one is a Kukri house, Nepalese Kukri house, and it's one of their base models. These were like $60, I think, when I started getting them, or at the time I last looked anyway. I don't really like this nubbin on the Kukri though. It seems to sometimes avoid my hand, but every now and again it doesn't. And when it jams into the fat of my hand, I hate this knife because it hurts a lot. It doesn't. I think it's pretty cool. I have a couple of those Kukri house pieces. This is a sword breaker. I did a video on it. Sword breaker, not in the sense that it breaks swords, because you probably would have a hard time breaking it, but that you can break a guard, hold a sword, parry, and I think with some, I don't know, it certainly takes a level of expertise that I don't have, but in theory, you kind of can. I did find and made a response to Shadiversity some years ago about this sword breaker thing, and I had my daughter fence or throw a foil at me, and if it was a thin blade that fit in one of these tiki grooves here, grabbing it, pulling it, maintaining some control of it, when somebody much, much smaller and slower and being very kind and not trying to kill you is thrusting. I could actually control the weapon. When I tried doing it even kind of slowly with a more substantial weapon, it was a lot harder to do, at least with this particular variety, which I don't know what it is. It says India on it, but it doesn't look exactly like the pieces from Windlass or exactly anyone. It might be, who knows what it is. I thought it was a Windlass. It doesn't look like a Topeka piece, and I haven't found a Windlass piece that looks quite like it either. So, Sword Church, yes. Nine people are joining the Sword Church today. Yeah, anyway, I'm cleaning stuff, and as people are joining, plan is to just finish oiling them because I didn't do it yesterday. Getting some of the small stuff out of the way. Once I finish with this lot here, I'll move it out of the way, and I have a lot more stuff. It's probably going to take as long as it did yesterday. This is I think it's Muso. Is it Muso Bowie? And it's a cool looking knife. I can't say I particularly like it though. This is made by Gen 2, which I believe is now Legacy Arms. And believe this was made, it reminds me of pieces anyway made in the Philippines, but I'm not entirely sure. It's a neat looking knife. I don't think the lines on it remind me more of like a bolo or something. It misses some of the buoyness for some reason. And this spine on the back made of brass. I read some stuff that said like the softer metal may allow you to bind or catch weapons differently or something like that. The previous owner did a little bit of that. I didn't find it to necessarily be the case. And I think it's probably there just because it looks cool. It certainly does that. But anyway, Gen 2 Musa Boy, I think I did. I might have done a video on that as well. Some of these I have, some I have not. Gingerly set it over here and hopefully not scratch the other knives. This is the Condor Moonshiner, I think is the knife. And I actually really like this knife. It's very simple. Doesn't have a lot of profile or taper or anything like that, but it's ergonomic. It's big. And I don't think it's terribly expensive. I think it's under $100. It's been a minute since I've really looked. But it kind of makes me wonder when I look at folks like Lance Connect Emporium or something, the medium, totally different knife, but they had a Boomhauer, something like that. For some reason, my brain goes Boomhauer, and that's not what it is. But dang old man. Anyway, this is like an example of everything is pretty nipped and tucked. It's pretty effective and efficient, and it's big and imposing, and you could use it not quite in the same capacity. It's obviously not a historically accurate knife necessarily, if that's what you're going for, but it's a competent knife, and it's one of those things that shows just how far your money can go, I think, in the realm of knives that are produced today, and how hard it is to compete with like handmade knives when there's so many options of reasonable quality that are out there today. For a guy that doesn't particularly care too much for Kukri, you're going to see a lot of shapes like Kukri today. This was I believe somebody in Ukraine made this. So Sword Friend Matt, the donor of the 3V sword that I broke, as well as the Croquet Stake of Doom, and the person I bought the Alayubi sword from, sent me this some time ago, and it had some dings and chips and stuff like that in it, and I was able to I think this might be the best job I've ever done at reprofiling an edge. I kind of got it on there. It took some time, and I was pretty happy with it, and I thought this one kind of justified it. It lost a little bit of the belly, but it's still a reasonably fun knife shape, and this handle is full of little jagged bits on it, and frankly, looking at this, I wouldn't think I would like the way it fits in my hand, but I really, really do. It really locks in, and it feels comfortable. And while so much of this knife doesn't look practical to me, it really does. The point kind of lines up with my wrist if I want to get the point where it needs to go. And if I'm chopping, it seems comfortable to do that. It doesn't fatigue my hand or have any hot spots. And if I really want to do any kind of slashing or something, it really just locks in, and those little grooves bite in, and I can't. If I pull it and try to twist, it's stuck in there. I feel like I have really good grip on the sword, even when my hands are wet. At the same time, it doesn't necessarily. I tried cutting some what was it, short ribs, and the bone when it was wet, and I was trying to get them in half. I couldn't cut through the short ribs with this, so cleaving power not so great, but at the same time, I still really enjoy the knife. Gaza, past midnight in Aussie land. Well, thanks for joining. You get to watch me do early Sunday morning early chores. Let's move this out of the way. Get to you in a second. Maybe I'm fine. Everyone's okay. Stay there now. I don't remember what this thing is. It is a windlass Cobra steel. I haven't played with it much. I got it in a lot of swords. The handle is very rubbery. It's a neat looking thing, but honestly, I don't have much of an opinion on it other than it seems like it's not cool enough to really ever get much attention. But maybe if somebody really wants me to, we'll talk about it. This, I think, is a cold steel machete. Doesn't require a lot of oil given the coating that's on it, but the edge has been used, so I throw a little dab on it. Again, a big kukri shape, except it doesn't have the meat of a kukri. It has the profile this way, but not this way, which is like this common thing that happens when so many people recreate swords, is like you kind of get the profile this way, then as soon as you turn it this way, it's very different. Anyway, I don't think this is necessarily meant to be, but I bet whoever sells it calls it a kukri. Best knife to shave with? I don't know. I did shave a soul patch once with a knife. It was not a comfortable experience. I don't know. I guess I'd want something flat and short and very, very sharp, but I don't know exactly which knife is best suited to the task. The pocket knife I had, which was a drop tip knife, no surprise, drop tip pocket knife, didn't really do a particularly good job, and it was very uncomfortable. So I would 0 stars, do not recommend. But I had a mustache and a soul patch, and it was not a great look for me. But there was a mustache May competition going on at work, and I was near disqualified because my soul patch apparently constituted a beard rather than a mustache. So in order to be judged fairly against my fellow competitors, I had to have only the mustache, which I still did not win, but I shaved off my soul patch with my pocket knife. And on the downside, I did apparently redeem man points with my colleagues. They said that is the manliest thing I've ever seen, and I am not a man in comparison, which at the time made me feel very good. But now, I don't know. This is so if you're trying to gain man points, I guess that's a thing to do. This is like this Philippines something knife. I can't remember. You see these pretty commonly. They're not terribly expensive. The wood is very, very soft, but it's just like a utility knife or something like that. And I believe it's from the Philippines. But you see things like this come out a lot. So somebody, I don't know if it's like a touristy thing or what it is exactly. Chris, doing any sword events coming up? We're going to Combat Con in Vegas at the end of July. Blade Show is going on now in Atlanta. Lots of good pics. Yes, I've seen some of the pics. I always want to go to Blade, and I just don't really travel much for sword events. Now, if I'm going on vacation somewhere, then I will totally see what sword-related fun can be had in the area. And I've been very fortunate to find people, craftsmen, things like that I can visit in the places that I'm kind of already going. But otherwise, I only tend to travel for sword events, for like seminars and stuff like that. With a little one, it's hard enough to get my wife to buy into me taking time to stream on the internet and do a chore live and make content from it. Going away for several days at a time is not probably in the cards for me for a few years. But at some point, I would really like to go to Blade. It seems like there's all sorts of cool stuff that happens at that show. There's things that are in my wheelhouse that I'm very much interested in seeing, and craftspeople that I would love to meet in person that attend that show. So that would probably be the one I would likely prioritize. There's also sword shows that go on. I know I missed the Chicago event, and then there's Toyama Ryu events. And Chris, I think you in Florida, you probably get some, but I have to travel if I ever want to rank up in Toyama. So, and I haven't for Toyama at this point. All right. But anyway, yes, I would love to. Combat Con is probably not it. There was a local HEMA event that happened where I am, and I went to go just visit and check out the Icebreaker event, which is what it's called. There's a video that I'll put out in the not too distant future, and it was really fun and cool. But I'm probably not going to travel, not for sword events in the near future. I missed some stuff. This is the Quinn Waterfield Gununting that I broke in a video some time ago, and I kind of made the tip into a, go figure, a drop tip kind of camp knife looking thing. And I found the little copper piece and I epoxied it back on, and it seems to be on there. So now it is a quasi-functional knife once more. And this is a really cool Wakizashi. So Chris Knutson reached out to me, and he's, I guess, designed some stuff for Spyderco, and he's not a smith that I had frankly heard of before, but he's a sword nerd and knows a lot about metallurgy, and reached out to me and said, hey, thanks for making YouTubey stuff. I made a Wakizashi for you. Do you want it? And my short answer was absolutely. So anyway, he made me this wok. It's not polished, but has a habaki, and it's made out of cable steel. So we had seen the videos that I'd done on the Michael Bell Katana that I have, which I'll clean in the not too distant future. And he talked a little bit about how he manages cables. So apparently if you twist the cable too much, then you can get rid of those inclusions that I see on some of the blades that I have, with little specks that seem to have, pieces of cable that didn't weld or something like that. And so if you twist it too much, then you can get rid of those, but then the blade will some months later twist. And I guess he said the steel has a memory. It's a phrase I've heard from a few people. Usually people that forge stuff out of leaf springs, they say that like it remembers its shape and kind of cants in one direction. Not an experience that I've had with swords, fortunately, but anyway, he said that he folds them. So I'm guessing he twists it and then he folds it, and that's what this one is. And it has, you'll see it in the video when I release it eventually, but it has a really cool pattern on it. The hata on it is this beautiful Moku Mehara pattern that kind of flows around the blade. I'm going to send this off to the Mystery Man in Black, have him mount it up, send it to Josiah, have him polish it. So there's an investment that I'm putting in the sword to wrap it up. And I have a set of Hyper Cafe fittings that I'm theoretically going to use on it. So I will likely use this as a personal walkie in the future. So it's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, Yoto, I already made a video on it a while ago, but I haven't released it yet. So it will be out eventually. I tend to make videos. Well, I had some time off, so in batches, I made a few different videos. And to favor the algorithm, I released them slowly. And one of the few benefits I have for member folks is that they can see the early stuff. So it is already up for members, but I'll probably be putting it out in a couple weeks or so. You'll get to see a video on it. Just like this one, this is a Howard Clark L6 unfinished blade. I bought this a while ago, not too long ago, and I'm going to finish it and have it all done up. So I have a set of fittings that I'm thinking about using on it, which are from Patrick Hastings that are on the nicer side, and I think would suit this blade well. The Mystery Man in Black already had some ideas. I sent him those fittings to potentially use on a different sword a while ago, and this one will eventually go up and be done as well. But he doesn't have a lot of time at the moment, so I don't have. I can't send it to him just yet. But eventually, like so many of the other projects, I will have it done. All right. What else do This is a Hanway Golden Oriole, one of the original versions, which I happen to like. I can probably, because it's a bit longer, maybe hold it up. You can kind of see this pattern on the front of it. I really like this original Suba over the version that they have now, and it has the mantis and the oriole, I think, on it, as well as like a beetle or a cicada or something like that the mantis is coming after. Anyway, a gentleman that that I play video games with lived close to where this was sold. It was on eBay recently, and I bought it pretty cheap. It was like a little over $100 for the sword, but it was local pickup only. So I'm now into it about $220, and unfortunately, it came full of rust. So fortunately, it was just this like very surface level rust. None of it seems to be terribly pitted. And yesterday, I took some Mother's Mag, and most of it wiped off, but it left these stains on it. The saya has been dinged around a lot, and there's some very deep scratches. The Koiguchi is chipped in a way that I don't think is frankly salvageable. So it's not a real score, but I digress. It is. I don't actually think I have any other Hanway swords around at the moment, so it's kind of nice to have one, just as a comparison, because it does do the thing that Hanway I think does exceptionally well, which I really happen to like the fittings on this one, even though they're older and you can't get this example anymore. I think Hanway does fittings well, and this is one that integrates kind of gold and copper in different colors, and I think that Hanway is one of the few that tends to do it tastefully. Anyway, there's something sharp down here as well. What is? It's the Shidodome. That's what they're doing. Okay. One other thing that Hanway does that not a lot of folks do, and I don't know if it'll come on camera, but the spine has like a different burnishing on it, just not a detail. Like when I have high level polishes done, they come that way, but very few mass production pieces have that little detail. It looks like some of the rust is returning, so I gotta air the scabbard out a little bit. But yeah, Hanway Golden Oriole. It was kind of fun though. The the guy that I play Apex with, Apex Legends, I reached out and I was like, hey, so how do you feel about coming into the arms trade? There's a sword that I want to buy in your area. Could you pick it up for me? And apparently it wasn't too far for him. So it was kind of cool to be able to have a friend of mine in Texas pick it up. This, you guys have probably seen, is the Kabuto Wari from Cold Steel. I'm probably going to end up selling this. I made a bit of it's more out of laziness that I think I haven't. It's an interesting looking piece, but honestly, it doesn't do much for me. So, and I don't know that they're made anymore now. All right. Well, there are now 16 people that have joined back in. I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but I'm glad people have joined back in or asked me to continue it on stream, because if it's interesting, happy to do it. I guess it's a chance to see some of the bits and bobs around. Since more people in, I'll just sum up. Chat isn't going crazy, so I'm actually able to keep up with it, but when it starts scrolling, my hands are oily, so I won't be able to answer every question. I do appreciate them. If you can tag me with the @MattJensen thing, it helps me see if the question is from me or if it's directed towards somebody else. Anyway, that is it. Feel free to ask questions. I'll try to stop, and I'll try to blab about each piece a little bit. This one is a K-bar Kukri type thing, and it's not the worst, but I don't particularly like it. It doesn't have the shape of other Kukris and such. This is one I have to be a little bit careful with. It's a Cold Steel short spear type thing, and I just try to oil the edges because they do rust. It is very, very sharp, and in the case, somewhat strong. So if I pull it out, I'm always nervous. I'm gonna have to go to the ER because it's pretty rough. But this is actually, I don't mind this. The way it lines up, this is a pretty fun little spear. I was thinking about attaching it to a different shaft, but the short spear kind of thing, It's quite sharp. I don't think it's terribly expensive, and it's a neat thing. I haven't gotten to spend a whole lot of time with it though, so I can't say too much. Cold Steel seems to be on the hit or miss side. I have a lot of their stuff. I don't mind it. Some of it is hokey and not particularly good, but every now and again, I think they really nail it. I love the SRK knife that I have. This little thing I think is fun and a very reasonably priced and durable little spearhead. I'm not a big fan of their katana. I didn't like the German, swept hilt kind of longsword thing that I have, but the Italian arming sword or longsword I thought was actually not too bad. So there's some evidence, some give and take with the Cold Steel. Excalibur, what's your favorite high-end steel you like on a katana? I think if I were to buy one and got to choose the steel for the things that I do, I would probably go with 3V. I know it broke and didn't do great on some of the crazy abusive stuff, but one of the things that I do with katana is cut tatami mats with them, and it held up. It didn't bend, which was good, and tatami mats aren't going to give as much resistance as steel, and the steel is more than capable of handling a tatami mat and the strength requirements, and it also holds an edge really, really, really well. And I don't like to sharpen. I don't have a lot of competence in it, especially if I have to preserve the original edge angle. So getting it sharpened and having that edge last for a very long time is an attractive thing to me. If it's end of days kind of scenario, then then there's a bit of an inside joke going around about it. But S7 is, I think, what held up the best in some of my kind of hands-on experience, if you will. Fiberich, I'm probably saying your name wrong. Hello from Croatia. Hello. I think I'm caught up with chat. All right. What else is next to me? Chris was curious about these. I have the Albion Conan stuff that I got to clean up. Gonna make just a smidge of room. Don't ding the swords. They get mad when you whack them into each other. All right, so this one came shipped to me. It was in a state slightly worse for wear, but it is the Sabutai. And it needs some more love. It's a little bit on the dusty side. Be generous. Albions are thirsty. And this one is a very early version. So it's stamped 4 of 1,000. So I think I have the what is it? The little certificate of authenticity that is with these, and I believe it has Jody Sampson's actual signature on it versus like the kind of mass printed versions that they kind of kick out now. But this isn't one that you see too much. I've thought about doing a review on these. This one is sharpened from Albion, I believe, as well. Yeah, this one has an edge on it. The Atlantean I have is not, but I believe the Valeria and the Sabotage that I have are. It's just not one that you see too often in the realms of collectors. People like the Atlantean. There's the dagger is one that folks like. The Father's Sword, sometimes the Valeria, but old Sabotage doesn't get a whole lot of attention. So I feel kind of happy to have one. The blade has some corrosion, some issues on it, but honestly, I bought this a while ago, and I've gotten actually reasonably good at cleaning the Albions and not screwing up the grind lines and stuff like that. So with the the ultrafine, the Scotch-Brite ultrafine pads that I have, I could probably remove any of the minor pitting that I see on here and get it back to the condition it was in mostly. It's tough to get along this guard area here, but I could do a serviceable job. And the guard area, fortunately, isn't too bad, so I could hopefully blend in any scratches that I put in it in with the original kind of polish, because they basically just use Scotch-Brite pads. And this one, I don't know if it was ground by Jody Sampson or not. I don't know. Couldn't say. But anyway, the Sabutai. Totally messed up, but I know the edge is down there. So. Okay. The original box is not in as good a shape as the swords. All right. Oh, this one actually. I think might be the one box that works. Do that one last. That's the Atlantean. This is the little area. Okay. So you can kind of see how they're dust magnets, maybe in camera here. They are in these sealed boxes in a corner, and I still pull them out, and they're just coated with dust. This is 15 out of 1,000, so again, an early one, but I don't think Jody's signature was on this this certificate of authenticity here. This one as well probably needs a little bit more attention with the Scotch pad. No, it's doing all right. Now, folks probably know about the Conan swords being, or the Conan sword itself being on the heavy side, which you are right. And I'll talk about the Atlantean and just want to take it out here in a minute. But this is no joke either in terms of heft. This is a beefcake of a sword. It is not light. I don't know how heavy it is, but it's not. I don't think it's too far off the Atlantean. Shake out some of the dust. It's my kiddo running around in the background. If you hear him, that's making noise. So the boxes do have these like twine things that can be closed, but I think later versions were like this. The Atlantean that I had is a lot new way than the rest. And these boxes slide out into my lights. All right. I probably should have done this one. It was already up. Don't drop the sword. All right, so this is the Atlantean, and it is the coolest, most terrible sword. It's the coolest sword and the worst sword at the same time. So yes, it is. It's somebody told me the story of it, and like supposedly if it's a giant's short sword, then sure, it makes sense storyline wise. But there are some nuances to it that don't still don't necessarily make a lot of sense if you go with this weird. It's not two-handed. It's heavy. If you excuse all of the other fantasy elements of it, it still does this thing where if I shake it, you can maybe see how much my hand rattles on the grip. And the grip is pretty much round. And basically, if you hit anything with this, it just wants to break your grip and turn around and kill you. And the sword wants to kill you. So it is dynamically an awful sword, but it is also the coolest sword. So yeah, this is the Atlantean, and it's in the sealed box, but it's just coated in dust. Now, generally speaking, when it comes to swords, I buy a lot of them secondhand, and I'm pretty shrewd and pretty thrifty when it comes to sword collection. I'm a sucker for a good deal. And if there's some issues or fixing things that can be done but take time and energy that most people don't want to deal with, sometimes I pick those up. This is one of those rare exceptions where I did buy it secondhand, and I did conceivably get a good deal on it, but I paid closer to retail for this thing than I do for most swords. It's one of the few examples out there of swords that I kind of ponied up for. Conan was one of those early movies that I really enjoyed. Probably shouldn't have been watching it when I was a kid, like many of the other people who like swords now watch Conan when they were kids. But this is one of those cool movie swords that I really enjoy. I wish I had a good version of Inigo Montoya's rapier. That's another one that I would like to have a good example of. I don't know if I'd even want a movie accurate blade because it's not great. But the hilt, kind of movie accurate, I'd love that. And I know, who is it? McDonald. He makes a kind of movie replica of it. And I've thought a lot about getting one of those, but I had a Zorro rapier that from him, and assuming that it would be of similar quality, the hilt again was really cool and showed a lot of the detail, but the blade was dumb. And it was movie accurate, and that's fine, but it's just like, oh. And so I kind of want like a Princess Bride Inigo Montoya rapier hilt, stuck on a sword of better quality. The box, yeah, probably. This one as well could use some attention with the Albion Scotch-Brite pad. Albion's rust, keep them in an enclosed area. Try to protect them. No matter what you do, they rust. It seems unavoidable. Yes, Kingfisher, this was on the Bad Swords Ramble. And it's, it's one of my favorite swords, but it's also like, it's a terrible sword. It's a terrible sword. It weighs, so I think the movie version was like even a pound heavier than the one that Albion makes. Weight is a disqualifier alone. The hilt the grip being round, the construction of the hilt and the goofiness. There's so much that is inexcusably terrible about it, but at the same time, it's magic in that it's still one of your favorite, like my favorite anyway, and a lot of people's one of their favorite swords. It has some awesomeness to it that is undeniable. All right. Yoto just joined the Sword Friends. Welcome, sir. All right, I am going to move some of this stuff off and then bring up the next batch of swords. So if you see me off, I'm coming back as long as the live stream's going. I am going to, what am I going to do? Yes, that's what I'm going to do. For folks that have joined, because now there are 24 people in here. Again, if I miss your comments, I'm sorry. If you can tag me in the comments, if you have a question for me, I'm going to try and look and keep track of it. That's what's going on. Same yobble as yesterday. All right, move some stuff out. Come at them this way to take them off. Be smarter the way they're pointed. Stick them all in the corner like a dummy. Wait, sorry. I know that's loud when I whack it. Can't take that out of context, I'm sure. Join Matt while he does the dishes. Sword cleaning and rambling extraordinaire. Duke. Back to it. Some of these are fancy. This one you can see is mucky. I think this might be the Nepalese Kukri house version that I like the most. It doesn't ride into my flub so much and is a little, I don't know, tamer on the back. Not as unkind if I whack stuff with it. It's a little bit longer, which I guess I like. I don't care for the detail as much. And this scabbard that they provided with it is functional. And even though it's got issues and splitty and stuff, it's not as rickety as the more elaborate one with a similar blade. This one needs some more deep cleaning, frankly. This is it's been, had the grip done a little bit, but it's got, the previous owner did this. This is wrapped in Fred Lohman Tsunami Ito, but like kind of glued on and with like a more aggressive epoxy or something like that. But it does make the grip very compelling. I really like the Lohman Tsunami Ito on it. It's a bit wasted, but anyway, the Book of Eli machete. Hey, Matt, it's Matt. Sword for Matt is here. You know, that's a good question. I would want the Inigo rapier to be fun for me, so I would go with the right-handed hilt. But I could understand the question. I don't think was the movie sword was the hilt particularly, because they predominantly fought right-handed, right? So it's a good question, though. I didn't know there was a difference. Yes, Sword for Matt is in the room. He is the one that supplied the 3V blade, the Croquet Stake of Doom. I talked earlier about one of the other, you can tell me, I thought they were from Ukraine, but that Kukri looking thing that was damaged. There's some other bits and bobs I think in here from you. We'll get to it. All right, there's that. Is there any? This one next. This is the Hanway blade from Zed that will become the My Little Pony Katana. I did contact Jackie from Hanway, and he said that this is probably about 2 years old. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. They said 2 or more years, but I wasn't sure what the or more meant. But anyway, handsome. It's a fun sword as it is. I have to say I like it. I will keep the original closed though, so if somebody wants to return it to the non-My Little Pony spec that it will eventually be in, that option will be available. All right. So this one is the Walter Sorrell's Tamahagane blade. Got my clean rag out here. I want to be a little more cautious about which hand I'm using to hold it. Some people say using rubber gloves, then I lose touch with which of my hands are oily, and I make more of a mess of things. Now, with some of these katana, I will try to observe etiquette, which is awkward for stream, but that means I'm not going to talk over the blade. I'm going to put them back in, but little spittle from me talking can get on them and then rust them while they're sitting in the case. So if people are playing with swords and come over to see them, one thing that you can do is certainly wear a mask if you want to talk. That keeps it away. But otherwise, if somebody's showing you a sword from your collection and you're observing it, hold the sword over here, engage with the person in conversation, and shut your gob when it's in front of your face. Because otherwise, when you're talking over it, you're just creating a chore like this for that person. Hopefully they remember it, because I've certainly seen some stuff at shows that has like little itty bitty, black marks from spittle that has rusted into the fine blades. So it's a downside when that happens. A lot of folks clean their stuff after they have company over, people looking at them. But one thing you can do to observe respectful handling of other people's swords is just, and then when it's over here, hey, I like this sword because of blah, 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 or other reasons. So the Sorrel's blade over here it's an excellent sword, and it shows a lot of Walter. I did actually talk to him about it some time ago, and he says like, I've come a long way since then. But it has a really cool cutting geometry to it. It's pretty wide at the base. It feels lighter than it looks. It's for being a wider sword, it's pretty comfy in the hand. Yeah, and it has like the folded tamahagane kind of pattern because he made the steel himself. What it does have though is unfortunately some little ticks, little spots where there's no imperfections. Something didn't weld. It wasn't perfectly flat, and that's not uncommon when I see tamahagane blades, even from very competent smiths. So it's one thing to even if you spend an exorbitant amount of money on a sword like this, sometimes that is kind of baked into the cake, that they're not completely perfect. There's small little imperfections that you can see, and this blade has I think one of them. Anyway, let's see. Garthang is up here. I will. It's right up there. You will see Garthang. I'll do it next. I'll do it next for Sword Friend Matt here. See. Cinecide Dread Pirate Robert's sword handles better, in my opinion. The blades around 33 inches. So the hilt on the Montoya Rapier. It's a bit heavy for the blade. I don't almost want I've never had an urge, even though I love Zelda games, to have the Master Sword. But Fable Blades did like this interpretation of a Master Sword that was excellent, and I would love to have something like that, but like an homage to the Master Sword. The Montoya Rapier, I'd want to be more screen accurate, but like kind of if there was ever really a really solid, like the close-up shot of the hilt, that'd be good to kind of have as close as possible, or even maybe a little bit more detailed. But the blade, I think I'd want something, not just an aluminum sheet kind of blade, but something that would have matched the quality of the hilt. These ones don't get dusty because I keep them in bags. The downside is I forget which sword is in which bag. So when people ask me questions like, hey, can you measure this or check that out or show me this? I usually have to go find Waldo because I forget which bag the sword's in. For Sword Friend Matt, Garthang, right here. I didn't clean it yesterday, even though it's been there the whole time. I forgot about it. Garthang is aging poorly, though. I haven't done much with it other than the review, and I was going to send it back to it's Apocalypse or Apocalyptic Blade Works, but I forgot actually to do it. He said he would clean it up and everything, but I haven't. Anyway, the fishing line is starting to come out of the area over here. That kind of tightened things up. Same down here. It's kind of coming undone a little bit, but otherwise, it's still it's still Garthang. It's still over in the corner there. For those of you that don't know, I bought Garthang from Swordfriend Matt. And and he gave me, we call it the Garthang price now, I think is kind of how it goes, because I got it for a pretty solid deal. And if I'm ever trying to buy swords from Swordfriend Matt over here, he says, well, it's not going to be a Garthang kind of deal. So it's yeah. Anyway, Garthang. All right, what was next? This is the LMC, the light mat cutter from Evolution Blades. I've talked about this sword quite a bit. It's one of my favorites. The one from Relics may have handled that problem, though. Went a little too game accurate. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen a Master Sword that I've really wanted, other than the one from Fable Blades. That one looked like what the Master Sword should have been. What other? I've never been really too keen on having the sword from Beastmaster. I like that one, but I never kind of desired that. The Conan sword, the Montoya rapier. I didn't care too much about Wesley's rapier. That wasn't the star of the show in my mind, anyway. What other ones? The Shokasugi Ninjato, even though it's, I wouldn't mind having a copy of one, even though they're not terribly elaborate blades. But I loved Revenge of the Ninja when I was a kid. This is a Citadel bamboo. Now, I'm of the opinion that the Motohara blades are better. I like them more. What I like more about Citadel, though, are the kind of the fittings. Citadel has this kind of hand-carved fitting set to it, and the Evolution blades that I've seen, the fittings are handsome, and they're usually like Japanese kind of cast fittings. And that would be kind of the one thing that I think they still have some ground to gain on. There's some cool looking Subas with neat rims on them that I think are good. And they're handsome, but they don't have kind of their own fitting set developed. And I'd like to see if they had like something that matched the quality of the blades fitting wise, or just Fujikawa. The rest of the mount is usually spectacular, but and the Subas aren't too bad, but they tend to be kind of raised rim or copper or silver rim with a Tsukashi or kind of relatively simple look. And that's not bad. Just be nice to see some more variety. And the Fujikashiro tend to be like cast things that I would see from Tazando or something like that. So they're of good quality and they're well cast, but when you're buying a $5,000 sword, something a little bit more I would rather have like something like this with a simple Fujikashiro with a patina on it that is handmade than something that's cast. That's personal preference, I suppose, but I think is an opportunity and something that I like more about the Citadel pieces. The LMC, yes, the LMC may not be good for the stuff you cut, King. I bent mine a little bit on a water bottle, or deflected the edge a little bit. Incidentally, Jason, even though I bought the sword secondhand, he offered to like send it back to, or if I paid the shipping, to have the folks in Korea fix it, and I just didn't take him up on it. This is a mass. I can't remember the name of the sword. Huado. I'm massacring it, I'm sure. But I've had a few swords from MAS. This is one of the few that I really like, and it's somebody was a little shorter. This is an excellent blade for Tamashigiri as well. It fits together well. It could use a better wrap, but the leather is tight. It's held up reasonably well. It's obscenely sharp. It feels good in the hand. It's been one that I've hung on to for a minute. I haven't used it for anything, but I have a sneaking suspicion one day I will meet a Toyama practitioner that wants a shorter blade, and this will maybe suffice. Swordford Matt saying he's hunting around for museum replicas for me to beat the snot out of. To keep it cost me a fortune. Yes, katana are I have swords that I use and then swords that I don't. For that reason, JC, they are, once you cut anything with it, the polish is basically not good anymore. If you cut a pool noodle, you can scratch it enough to mar the polish in such a way that a particular collector would care and consider it, used. So you have swords that you use and swords that you don't. That's kind of how the katana side of things goes. I'm hunting for an MRL. Yep. I don't know exactly what would be fun to test. The Sword of Roven is one that I had a while ago, and one that people seem to regard as but I don't know that it matters in particular which one to test. Any old MRL, I'm sure, would do the job. Any winless. They specialized in kind of martial art cutting swords, so they have a high shinogi on MAS blades. The edges tend to be a little goofy, though, so I've had some L6 that's been on the softer side. That's a risk, and L6 can be, but I've had some with little nicks and imperfections and stuff like that tended to be softer than I think would be appropriate. And the edges sometimes need to be reprofiled. They're not particularly good. Sometimes like a little too fat. I don't know if it's too much Niku or like a secondary bevel that's been polished. I'm not sure, but some folks that have bought them have been very disappointed. Swordfriend Mike, he lent me a relatively high level MAS blade to play with, and at the time Motohara wasn't around, and Katetsus were a lot more expensive, so a lot of practitioners in the Toyama dojo would use MAS blades, and he got one, and it was just it was shitty. Like the Ito was not where it should be for a sword in that price point. Things were looser than they should have been, and the edge just wasn't sufficient to cut tatami, and that's kind of the bag that they had. So unfortunately, they can be a little bit hit or miss. But this one was a custom variety, as I understand it, and I really like it. It's got an excellent edge on it. It seems really, really well made. It also seems like I forgot to throw a little oil on the Suba area, which I forgot on this one will rust. So just liberally apply some oil around here. All right. This is my favorite. I like this one. This is my bamboo mat. I really like it. I've blabbed about it a lot, but the blade on my bamboo mat is substantially heavier than the average bamboo mat blade. So I've had a few other Hanway bamboo mats. None of them have felt the same, and I've sold all the rest of them. I had hoped the first time I got this that I could buy a second one so I could do some of the dumb things that I do with swords with this one, but I haven't because I haven't found one that is the same. They are quite different. And I said earlier that I had golden oriole, and I didn't have anything else from Hanway. This is a Hanway, but just the blade. The rest of it's been remounted. Lomin Tsunami Ito on it. It's could stand to have a cleaning. Some hypercafe fittings on it in the Handachi style. The patina is starting to come off pretty good, but it's had years of use, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. This one probably doesn't even need cleaning. I handle this quite a bit, and so it gets cleaned more than most, but it's a frequent sword I play with. So I know people ask me about the Hunto. This is a Waki, or not a Waki, a Tanto. Not really too much to say about it, though. It's pretty Tanto, but yeah, at some point I should share it in more detail. It's got a nice hamon and a nice sabaki on it, but not anything overly crazy special. This one is Waning Life. The Mystery Man in Black did this. I did a video on it some time ago. And it is sitting here waiting to be sold. But this is kind of a cool one. So Bob Ignath did this blade. And for those of you that don't know who Bob Ignath is, he was a prolific smith in his day. He made a lot of swords. But he was one of the few folks that made like Japanese style swords, and a lot of smiths today, like Howard Clark and stuff like that. I don't know how much they learned or not from him, but a lot of them give him credit for, explaining some facet of Japanese sword making. So, and unfortunately passed away some years ago, and the swords now are in the hands of collectors, and you don't spot them up for sale too often. He also didn't do a lot of Wakizashi, and he certainly didn't do a lot of Naginata Naoshi style Wakizashi. So this one is a bit of a rare one. James, the Hanway bamboo mat is the only katana that you own, and you sounds like you're happy. I'm glad to hear it. This is a pretty one. And it's in this because it's got like paper on it that I'm trying to, the lacquer isn't completely cured, or wasn't when I got the sword. So I'm trying to keep it from marring the lacquer in any way. So there's some paper in there, and then it sits in this bag as well to keep dust and whatnot off of it. This is one of those in terms of swords you don't cut with. Certainly I'm not cutting with it. This is on consignment from the Mystery Man in Black. And so I'm trying to keep it as pristine as possible. And I don't take it out, handle it, or look at it much. I did for the video that I put out on it, but she's a pretty sword. She's a pretty one. Now, if there were a sword other than the Albion Mercenary that I liked, that would be my second favorite. It would probably be this one right here. This is the St. Catherine. It's a John Lindemo blade. and it's made out of folded steel, and it's very, very pretty, and it's also wonderful feeling in the hand. It's an absolutely excellent sword. It has a cool look, and if it weren't for all the positive vibes about the mercenary, this would be my favorite. It's got, and at least in terms of feelings, I don't know. I don't have the same positive vibes from this one. I'll leave it at that. But it's still an excellent sword. It's still an excellent sword. I've thought about selling it a number of times, though. That is a thing I've also done, and I just kind of haven't. But I have pondered it. I probably would. It's a stupid expensive piece. It's one of his earlier swords, but also it's pretty cool. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up. The planes on it are very clean, but it ripples in kind of cool different ways. Anyway, very excellent feeling sword. I really, really happen to like the way it feels. I think I did a video on it. The hilt components could use a little more love. They have some patina on them, but it's hard to avoid on this one. Yeah, let's St. Catherine. You stay. Sword from Matt is here. This is the, I believe this one was called the Black Mamba. It's a Ryan sword blade, and it has some stories to it that I don't know that I want to recant at the moment. But anyway, it's got this kind of moroha, I think is how you pronounce it. It's not the best done example of it, but anyway, it's a light feeling sword. And I'm going to apply some oil. Again, this was sent from Sword from Matt. I've played with this one. It already had some edge damage on it. So it's a fun candidate to practice some edge-on-edge related stuff. Just some minor binding. But at a class not too long ago, I did some playing with using this just to do some edge-on-edge to compare and contrast how that feels versus using Boken. I was very gingerly with it, though. I didn't intentionally try to really do too much to muck it up. I forgot about that one. There's a few in here that you probably forgot about. Let's bring out some more. Swordford Matt sent this to me some time ago. I haven't done much other than try to clean the edge up, but I've stopped. Matt, do you remember who made this? I removed the nick, but I've almost given it like a recurve, and I was tempted to send this to like Chris at Sterling Armory and see if he could more competently execute an edge on it. But it's going to need a different habaki. It's still got plenty of hamon left. It's still straight. I need some oil either way, but I tried. It had nicks in it when Matt sent it to me, and I think I have a 1x30 belt sander, and I don't know what I'm doing, and so I don't think I've got the lines right. I think it needs something better. And as I look at it this way, it's not. I don't want to fuck it up anymore, so I might send it to somebody more competent to grind and then make a fun thing out of it. Honestly, I thought that this would make a fun cane sword. It's straight, and if I keep it towards the top of the cane, maybe it could do something cool. I'm not sure though what destiny that one has, but it's cool. This one is the Nevermore Novum or something. This is also a 3V blade, but it was kind of done out with an angle grinder. Interesting geometry. It has like a weird kind of false edge drop tip kind of piece on one, a pipe back, a central kind of ridged piece here, all kind of chiseled away with an angle grinder. So interesting. I haven't done much. The grip is actually pretty comfortable. I don't mind it. It's goofy to throw around. I haven't done much. I didn't write it down. If you turn a handheld belt sander on its back, it will work better. Give a stiff surface. That's a good idea. I don't have one of those, but that can be remedied. The problem I often run into with doing some work myself, though, is that I know lots of competent people that do it better, and I have this picky eye, and nothing that I do ever seems to amount to even passable. The edges are now getting to a point where on a sword that I'm okay with mucking up. The edges are okay. Like I can do an edge serviceably if you're not terribly particular. But that's it. Other than that, I'm not happy with the work that I do. And I know lots of people that can do it better. And usually they give me a decent price on it. So I feel like that's better. And I'll spend a ludicrous amount of time getting terrible results. This is a case in point. This is a knife I bought on Bladesmith forums. It was like $50 for this folded patterned knife. And I was like, oh, cool, but it didn't have a handle on it. And I was like, well, I was kind of excited to try a handle. And it's shitty. It's just shit. I mean, it's okay. I can hold it. Now I use this to open boxes, but it's just a shitty handle. Shitty in every way. I look at it and see hours of work for a more than mediocre result. And I bet if I sent this to any person that has ever done work for me, they would probably charge me not that much to put wood scales on it. They would do a much better job, and I would have an entire day of my weekend back to do fun things like I'm doing right now. Anyway, yeah, I don't. I try to stay away from it. It's just, I don't know, economies of scale, I suppose. More swords. Bringing out some fun ones here. So, sword friend Ian, sword friend Master Ian has sent me some more stuff to play with. This is, I don't remember the name of this, but the Albion Messer. And it is an Albion Messer. Oddly, though, I think it feels great in the hand. No exception to that. It has so much less character in the blade than the Lance Connect pieces, though. It's refined, and like the bevels are nice, and it's very smooth. Even in kind of some of the false edges there, but the Lance Connect pieces have all these kind of elaborate fullers and stuff that I think add some cool character to it. The crossguard area here is pretty well fit, as you'd expect for an Albion, and I can't see the nagel peen through, but I can kind of make out just this. I don't know if my camera will even pick it up. I'll try to shimmer it in the macro lens when I do a review on this, but I believe I can see the peen that's gone through. And everything is, reasonably right and tight, but there are some gaps and stuff that are not what I've typically seen on an Albion before, and not particularly great. So yeah, in terms of fit and finish, this might be the worst Albion that I've seen. It's still excellent, but it's not quite at the same level that some of the other Albions have been. Servanian did mention he's used this quite a bit as well, but I don't think what I'm seeing in terms of little gaps near the scales are what would have been anything that he could have done. Anyway. I think it's just some missed opportunities for some cool fullers here. It's a simple blade. It feels excellent in the hand. It's very lively and nimble. It's excellent in the hand, but at the same time, it just doesn't have the same panache as like the Gunther does, or the Gustav from Lance Connect Emporium with their kind of fullering. But I just got this in the mail yesterday, and give it a coat of oil. It'll be one that I will eventually review, and it's pretty neat. Oh, what's the longest you've had your hair? This is the longest I've ever had my hair. Whatever length it is now, it comes down to a little below shoulder. I had long hair as a young. Ooh, that could have been bad. My toes are fine. There is a kozuka sticking out of one, but it's fine. It's fine. Care about the swords. So long as there's not blood on the swords, we're fine. A little messer, or not messer, a waki from Sword Friend Ian. This is one he didn't like, so he sent it to me to hang on to. I didn't have any examples of wakis, and now there will be a few. And it comes, I believe this is a kozuka. The kozuka is the name of the handle, I think. Anyway, the pocket is not, falls out. Gotta pay attention to that one. It's out for blood. All right. We'll talk about this after I do. That's the Cold Steel Kriegs Messer. This is a windlass Shamshir. One that I've played around with reviewing. Sword mods can be frustrating. My last Samigawa wrap was so involved in getting the seam nice that I didn't notice until too late that the Emperor node sat off center. Yeah, some levels of customization are okay. Like I don't mind filing out a Suba or peening it or doing some maintenance related stuff, switching to a different Suba, that kind of stuff. That's not too bad. But I wouldn't even bother attempting a wrap. I know that would be a recipe for frustration. Incidentally, this thing, fun feeling in the hand actually, but the handle is itty bitty. I think my daughter would think this handle is too small. Maybe it's just the right size, but it feels a bit on the small side to me. Okie doke. This is the Cold Steel Kriegs Messer. I think it was a recently released product, and kind of been laughing that it seems like the connects from Wish. And so at a glance, it doesn't look bad. It has some implementation of distal taper, which is nice. And in the hand, it's not bad. The grip is a bit on the blocky side. I like the finger wells. So if you're thinking about getting one, those are nice. But I honestly think that a little bit of time with a file, you might be able to file this to shape. And it seems in such a condition that you could probably put different scales on if you muck it up too much. I like the feeling of my knife handle, derpy as it might be, better than the feeling of this. It feels like I'm grabbing a big Lego or something like that. Something is off about it. Shipping also exposed some issues. So when I got the box from Sword Friend Ian, the nagel had like poked through, and UPS was not particularly kind with the package, but the rest of everything arrived safe. However, the nagel had poked through the box, and I don't think it's bent in terms of the nagel itself, but it did kind of bend off to one side. And now this nagel twists and it rattles around. And so I can see the peen here. I personally don't think that this was secured enough. So Sword Friend Ian has been rather frustrated with UPS, banging up his property, but it did expose some issue. He said this was tight when he got it. But if I think about the hole in the box, which is outside, it just kind of poked through and looked like it had been pressed and wore a little bit. But this is meant to kind of take sword strikes. And so it gives me the impression that this would likely happen if you used your crossguard for anything. And I bet I could take a little nail set or something like that. And if I could brace this on something, I could, not without probably some some aesthetic consequence, but I bet I could swell this out a little bit to make it lock in a little bit better than it has. But it seems like it wasn't driven out enough and expanded enough to really give a a secure fit. The other thing that I didn't notice at first, but there's this slight, maybe you can hear it. There's a little wiggle in the crossguard. Not a lot, but it, based on how this is fit, the Lance Connect guys like kind of have to squish this down, and there's hammer marks around to tighten these things down because the shoulders, even though they appear to rest in the crossguard here, they just, I don't know, it's almost secured by the scales a little bit. This one little mark here, as well as some epoxy, is probably what was holding it, and it's just not quite the right construction. It's not as secure as it needs to be, and that's unfortunate. So I think UPS may have exposed it by gingerly giving it some more tapping than I probably would have, given that Swordsman Ian would like this back, and I don't generally tend to try and abuse them. But UPS did some of that for me, and I think it's just more delicate than it should be. At least that's what I'm speculating. I haven't swung it at anything yet. I got this in the post the other day, and yeah, so it's a little on the flexible side, and it's also bending in the middle of the blade. That's not ideal. Blade node is okay. Kind of almost towards the end of the fuller. It feels nice and light in the hand. It's not an uncomfortable sword. So there's that going for it. Shamshire tiny hands, people. Good for chopping cabbage. The source cheap crap and so there. I've had good and bad with cold steel. I was mentioning that a little bit earlier. I like the SRK knife that I have. I like the Italian longsword feeling wise that I have, but I'm not a huge fan of the Katana. This one I'm kind of on the fence on. But this was $400 and didn't come with a scabbard, so this is not an inexpensive sword offering from Cold Steel. It's already got like little rust starting appearing on the edge. I don't know if that came that way or not, but all right. So those are kind of the initial hot takes on the Cold Steel Kriegs Master. I will do a review on this, probably toot sweet, but I'm not, at a glance, I'm not too enthusiastic about it. I'm not happy that Swordsman had to deal with UPS issues, but I probably would have cut some, maybe I would have cut branches and maybe this would have happened, but I don't generally bonk the cross guard when people lend me stuff. And I know it's an important facet. This is supposed to take a sword blow, and I don't think if it loosened up, not to say that it would come out, but it certainly seems to indicate that these are not constructed as durably as a Messer should be. And perhaps with some percussive maintenance, if I take the Lance Connect approach and kind of cramp this down and beat this with a hammer to really squish things together, maybe it'll do what it needs to do, but you're going to lose some of the the aesthetic quality of the blade if I do that. So anyway, let's see, where are we at? I don't see anything. Also, I do see now there are 28 people here. So just a reminder, if you have a question for me, it really helps me if you tag me in the comments with the @MattJensen thing. It pops up in orange and I can see it. So far, chat isn't going too crazy though, so that's good. I still have a wall of swords to do, but I got to move these off and then get the next batch on for cleaning. So that's what I'm going to do now. You will hear me mumbling in the background and my daughter furiously Minecrafting. So that's what's going to happen now. Potty break. Well, not for me, but maybe for other people. Furiously Minecrafting away. Don't trip on the light. Get out of here, Loch Ness Monster. New stuff in. Next batch. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. Okay. What just happened here? Oh, a little metal fitting. Get that out in a minute. This is it's like the zombie apocalypse blade from Ronin. Made some time ago. The adhesive has come undone on the Koiguchi piece here. For another day. So this has this like blackened blade, and this is I did a review on it many years ago, but it has held up reasonably well, and it is better feeling in the hand than you would expect. I can't say that I mind it, and the blackened blade is neat looking, if nothing else. It's like the Michonne Katana, but all black, because it's cooler that way. This and the Crom Killer were sent to me as like a Ronin Katana 10-year anniversary thing. And they said, don't break them. So I didn't. So it sits on a shelf and I feel weird about it. But I'm getting over it. It's only been close to a decade. This is the closest thing to a shashka that I have. It's like a show sword. I don't know if it's got little bits of rust on it, but I'm not sure what it's made out of. But it's in a shashka shape, but it's not, I don't think, functional. It's blunt. But I will it anyway. This is another Sabersmith something, little short sword dealy here. Had a little bit of rust on it. I think I cleaned the majority of it off, but looks like it could use a little bit more attention. The fittings and stuff. No, maybe I did not. Maybe I bought it and then stuck it on a shelf. That seems like something. That seems more likely to be the thing that happened, because this looks pretty rusty. This is probably the most fun-feeling Sabersmith sword that I have. The shortness kind of lends itself to the blade profile. It's not so bad feeling. They're goofy swords though, hollow ground and come in some strange scabbards. I found this one on Craigslist for, I can't remember how much, probably like $100 or something. Sabersmith. This is the Sabersmith Katana. Not too long ago, I sold off the last Angel Sword Katana that I had, and part of what I got was this Sabersmith katana and a naginata from Sabersmith. So I have this. It's weird. There's not really any taper to it. It's hollow ground. There's no habaki. It's not really functional as a Japanese practitioner's kind of sword, but it's katana-esque and fun feeling, and I don't mind it. Plus, I don't know, there's some sentimentality for me in owning blades from the Minnesota Renaissance Festival and the vendors that are there. I don't recall Sabersmith so much as a kid. I do remember going there and seeing them when I was in my teens, I think. But I remember Arms and Armor and Angel Sword. Those were the two that kind of stand out in my mind as the vendors that I got to see. And so I like owning pieces from them. There's some nostalgia because they were some of the first vendors that introduced me to swords. So, Joe, more swords. Hello. Glad you could pop in, Joe, to say hi. Yes, well, folks asked me to continue doing this when I did my last stream. I wasn't sure who would want to watch me do dishes, but it seems like it's a fun thing. So I'm happy to do it with company. This is the Cold Steel Katana. I bought it from sword friend Arthur, and I did a terrible sharpening job on it. And I've gotten better at it, but it's still very sharp. I did a good job. This is when my strop was working to refine the edge too, and now it doesn't do that so much. But the edge on this, it's serviceable. I kind of use this cold steel piece as like I have other options, but I've kept it around as like a guest sword kind of thing. And cold steel, I'm probably going to hang on to this one because cold steel is just a really popular sword. It's a common sword that people are familiar with, and so having it around as a basis of comparison, I think is going to be a handy thing. So I'll probably hang on to that one begrudgingly, as where the Sabersmith, I might hang on to the short sword, but I don't know if I'll hang on to the katana. There's not a lot of these are pieces that I necessarily want to hang on to. What was that? Well, I'll do this one next. This one I do like. I'd be somewhat loath to part with it because it's one of the few fantasy swords that I happen to really like the feel of, and I get good vibes from it. It's been fun. I bought this from Sword Friend Matt as well. I bought a number of things from Sword Friend Matt, and it was in a different hilt construction. Sword Friend Saeed. I did a video on this basically, and it was redone in this hilt, it used to have a ricasso area that tapered down. It was moved up so it could accommodate a hand and a half kind of grip. I did this scent stopper pommel, something that I've been a fan of. It looks kind of reminiscent of the mercenary grip with a half wire bit on it. But it has this leaf blade, and it is thick. It's stouter in the hand than you might feel. The mercenary is certainly more nimble, but I really like it. I enjoy the sword, and it was a Rick Barrett blade. It's through hardened. This texture on it is etched in, and so anyway, I like the sword though. This is a Valiant Armory Templar, I think. I'm not sure. The Templar might be the two-handed one. I don't remember. This is from when they were made in China, so not their current series. Very sharp, lively, good. It's got a really nice scabbard. The blade is not up to the same kind of level that they do now. The fittings are also not as nice. The crossguard isn't bad, but the pommel is meh. And the scabbard is excellent. Valiant Armory always did a spot-on job with that stuff. Their leather work is pretty good, even on these swords. I think these were much less expensive than what they are now, but I think they're kind of competing with Albion now and made in the US kind of thing. YouTube Punk, closest call I've had with a blade to being seriously injured. I was on Blade Talk the other day. Joe showed the video, but it was a Ronin Katana hammer forged sword. And I put a piece of metal on my stand, and I didn't secure it, and so the metal moved around. But I was kind of trying to do metal on metal, or like armor, or some vague similarity to that. And the sword broke, but the metal it broke on the middle, and like the plate shifted and it flung it back at my face. And it showed like the blade came pretty close to stabbing me in the face and me probably not being here. So that was the closest. After that, I was much more cautious. I'm still debatably not. Every now and again, I get nicked. Every now and again, something flies off in a direction that I don't want to. But despite how out of control I look in the reviews, I'm trying to not put my whole weight into it. I'm not fast enough, no matter what, if something comes back at me, to really react in time to avoid it. But I try not to swing with so much force that I'm completely out of control. I try to move my body in such a way that it's probably not the most effective for the strike, but I'm making a smaller target, and hopefully those targets aren't vital. I usually put on a metal fencing mask, which for glancing stuff is hopefully gonna shoot stuff off to the side, or at least it probably wouldn't have protected me, frankly, with the sword that was flying back at my head if it had come center. But yeah, that's some of the stuff I do. I wear a chainmail shirt that I'm too fat to fit in, so I drape it over my heart. So if it at least comes for like my neck area, it's mostly protected. But I could stand with some more armor. I'm too cheap to buy it. All right, what's next? I'll do this one. This is the other one from Alayubi. Yeah, watch out for the porn sites. I haven't seen them in today. They must not be up yet. Yep, this is the other one from Alayubi. It's not a cable blade. It does look like the edge is quenched, though. I can kind of make out what looks like some differential heat treatment. The handle has also exploded on it and was glued back in by Sword Friend Matt. So handle explosions are similar. I don't know. I have no idea if this handle is also filled with resin or not. But I think it's probably solid metal, but you can't take anything for granted. I think Sword Friend Matt also cut it down from a different sword. I don't think it came this way. So, but in the way I got it, it's at least more functional. This is the Kingston Arms side sword. Speaking of abuse testing, can you please stop stabbing trees? Some kind of, probably. I don't think I have the same option. I'm likely going to be moving in the not too distant future, and I will have to find an alternative option for the sword chuck. So that tree won't have to deal with me too much longer. Anyway, this one is a Kingston Arms side sword. I don't like it. It feels weird in my hand. The leather isn't great. The grip is strange. I can't find I don't know, just not for me. I was thinking about doing a review on it, but I probably should. The next two are swords that I recently purchased that are interesting, and I don't really know what they are, which is uncommon. So this is what I believe to be a Last Legend Yashima that has been customized. The fittings are, I believe, different. These fittings I recognize as either pieces from Hanway or from Japan. They've been cast around. Anyway, also sorry, sun is up and he's screaming. The Ito is extremely tight on it though, so I believe this has been kind of redone by somebody. It's better than anything I saw from Last Legend. And the scabbard looks like it's mid customization and just wasn't finished, so it makes me think it was some customizer was playing with it and just kind of sold it off before they completed all the things on it. Anyway, everything is tight. Last Legend also used to do this habaki thing where they just kind of pinched the top off. They would use habaki that were like a standard size, but then have blades that didn't fit them, and they would tend to be kind of pinched. And so I've seen this little step on Last Legend blades where it's not common on others. And it has a polish that reminds me of Last Legend as well. And this one has koshi sori, and that's what the Yashima did. So Last Legend had sori that were different. They either had deeper sori or some blades with koshi sori. And that's what this one has. So I think it's a Last Legend Yashima blade, but Last Legend usually had a different tang, and it was stamped with an LL on it. This one has something else. I took a picture of it and posted it some time ago, but I still don't really know what it is. Somebody said Tizando, but I don't think it says Tizando, so I'm not sure. Anyway, it's interesting. It does. I think it's a Last Legend way. Is that the tsunami one? No. Yeah, I'm not sure. Is that the tsunami one? Tsunami. I don't know what you mean, tsunami one. But this one is. I'm speculating it's a Last Legend Yashima. The Sori makes sense for that. The blade profile makes sense for that. The Tang doesn't make sense for that. The Habaki does, but that's what I'm going to speculate. Either way, it's a neat sword. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. Incidentally, I bought a few swords from somebody I bought swords from before. The Banshee, the Hanway Kuidao, these, and I thought the Banshee was going to be like the nicest one, and it turned out to like be falling apart in my hands. And I cleaned that one and talked about it a little bit yesterday. The swords I thought would be super screwed up, and they ended up being fun. I like that it has tight ito. I like the shape of the sword. It needs some love, but they're really not bad. I don't intend on hanging on to them. I don't think I even intend on reviewing them because you can't buy them. But this is kind of an excellent candidate for somebody that's competent at customizing and can do some paint. The scabbard has what you need to be cleaned up, but it needs to be stripped and repainted. And the ito is very tight. So I think it's got a reasonable amount of life left in it for somebody. This one is kind of the same thing, but I might actually hang on to it. So this, I think, is from Pro Sword. So I got it from the same person. Pro Sword, I think, was affiliated with Last Legend in some way. I'm not entirely sure. Not the ito. No, none of the ones I have over here have tsunami on them. Anyway, Pro Sword. The hamon, they had this kind of characteristic hamon on them. So I owned a sword from Pro Sword, and it had a very similar polish on it at one point. And so that's why I think also the copper habaki, but I subsequently think that this one as well has been remounted. But I think it's from Pro Sword. I haven't looked at the Nakago yet, but this sword was shipped without a Mikugi in it. So it ran through and poked out the end of the scabbard. So that's a bummer. But the tip was fine. And it's really actually a very pleasant looking blade. The lines on it are very clean. It has kind of a somewhat unique geometry. It's not kind of the total cliche kind. A copper habaki that seems to fit reasonably well. And I believe this was also remounted because this leather is cleaner than I have seen. It also has Mitsudo Manuki in it. So that's why it looks like I might have to keep it. Yeah, the leather on it is actually very tight. It's wiggling around in here a little bit. I felt some rattle in the handle. I'll have to play with it a little bit. But handsome sword, and because it has swirly Mitsudomes, I may have to put a swirly Mitsudome Suba on it, and then have another Mitsudome Katana, because those are just tough for me to pass up. All right, more swords. Continue on. I'm winding down. There's not too many more. There's enough more, but I might actually be able to be done by noon. At least if I shut up and start working. This is the Howard Clark 1086 katana. So I actually, this was the first like high-end sword that I had, at least custom variety sword. Eventually got the project done. It wasn't the first project that I finished, but it was the first high-end blade that I bought. And then I sold it. And then the person that bought it sold it back to me, and I didn't mind. So we cut with it a little bit. I could cut with this and play with it some. It's still very, very sharp. And it has Roman urban fittings on it. I don't know if Roman is going to be making fittings, or if he does, I think he's retired from it now. And it's fit up, and it's very nice. And like this sword a lot. It's got some sentimentality to it. It's got some hard memories as well. Roman did I was asking him about what he wanted to do, and he did urushi lacquer on the fittings, and it just didn't turn out like he hoped. And it's just got the surface isn't as smooth as I think I would like it to be on the urushi. But it's urushi lacquered fittings, and it's inlaid with mitsudomes everywhere, and it's really cool, and I like it. But anyway, yeah, it's got pros and cons, but I do like it. It's the Howard Clark 1086 blade. Get out of here, towel. In an effort to be expeditious, I'm gonna knock everything over if I do that. Don't be expeditious. YouTube Punk, no My Little Pony Katana updates. I'm hunting for fittings. I did talk a little bit about it while I was cleaning yesterday too. No strong updates yet. No, nothing worth reporting really. This is a Michael Bell cable steel blade. Is there a name for the type of pommel, the more rounded style? I am starting to like them. The more, do you mean on Japanese style swords or on European swords? No worries, YouTube Punk. Can't make them all, especially when I blab for 2 hours while doing the dishes. See if I can remember. This should be the other Michael Bell katana. Am I right? I am right. I know what swords are in the bags sometimes. This one was a bit of a bummer, incidentally. It came with like a big ding on the Monet. I wasn't expecting it. It's not grotesque or too bad, honestly, but it's a bummer. There might be a name for it. If Yoto's still in here, he seems to know the names of things better than I do. I'm not sure if there's a name for a rounded kashira on the stylistically. I don't know. There's different styles, but I don't know if just the rounded one has a particular name. My daughter in the background is doing her best to hold in sick girl coughs too. So my son, he doesn't care that I'm doing stuff live on the internet. My daughter, she's being good. Trying to save you from the yaks. So higos are usually rounded, but I don't know. Short answer. This is one I got recently from sword friend Jack. It's a Skydro Scallop Katana. I reviewed one of these some years ago that was on loan from a friend of mine. And now I have another one. It wasn't too bad. It was $300 something. And it's a folded steel Skydro blade. And I think that Skydro does this style pretty well. It's got some pattern to it. It's pretty. It's got a wide profile. It's certainly sharp. The habaki and all that is a little odd on this one, but the handle, all of it fits well. And I think that in this price range, they do pretty good work on the swords. Unfortunately, like when you go to the $4,000 range, the hilt seems to look the same wonky habaki and stuff like that. So I don't know that they're really obscenely high-end ones would be things that I would recommend, but I've enjoyed a number of the Skydro blades that I've had for, at least if you're talking on the smaller end of the budget. This one doesn't bind either, so that's good. Binding is a thing that I've also seen commonly on Skydro blades, and this one doesn't seem to do it. So people often ask me, what's the most expensive sword you have in your collection? It's this one right here. This is a katana from Anthony de Cristofano. I don't want to necessarily go into the whole story. I have a video on it. You can find it on my channel. Again, it's an Anthony de Cristofano blade. The blade doesn't necessarily look it. The polish, I don't think, is doing it a lot of favors, but it's got a lot of character if you look really close at it, and Anthony is an excellent swordsmith. Yeah, it's more traditionally made. It's absolutely excellent. And it's got antique fittings on it, Loman, olive green Tsunami Ito. At least an antique Suba. I'm not sure if the Fujikashi are antique or not. Minuki are. Anyway. I don't practice or play with this sword much. It's too fancy. But I also don't sell it because I really, really like it. So I've thought about having it polished and obviously done up in swirly mistodomes, of course. But I think that's one that I'll probably hang on to if I can. We'll see, though. I also want my family to live in a house. So, well, they live in a house now, but a different house. And I may very well sell it to help help with some of the potential moving stuff that may come up. Sword pajamas. I like that. I like sword pajamas. I did a video on this one. This is a antique blade. The name of the smith is escaping my memory at the moment, but there was some association with Murimasa, but it's not a Murimasa blade. But I like it because it's long and it's skinny, and it's a really comfortable blade to potentially do EI with. And so I've thought many times about having this remounted. And it's nothing special. It's got flaws and all that kind of stuff. What makes it maybe in any way unique is some historical association with Murimasa, and that it's long, and that, but to me, neat because I might want to use it to practice with at some point. But I've had this up for sale for a long time, and nobody's given me an offer on what it would take to part with it, considering that I've thought so many times about having a blade, an antique blade mounted up to use for practice, but I'd want something long enough to do it, and this fits it. And anytime I go and look at anything that's as long, it costs at least that to get something, and this is suitable for the project. So anyway, it might sell someday, but it's, if nothing else, neat. Nico, hey, it's been a minute. Nice katana mat. I finally pushed the button. Swords of Northshire got it custom Ido. Some requests for a sturdier fit on the ska and Kasha Nito. Dinko Japanese because shipping is high. Well, fair enough. I hope you enjoy it. Let us know how it turns out. What is in here? I can't remember the name of this smith either, but this is a antique piece that's been remounted. The guy that did the kind of silver samurai sword that I have also mounted this up. This was an earlier of his projects, and it's technically a katana, but on the shorter side. And his skills were not as refined, so it's just not quite as good. But another one that I've been too lazy to actually put up for sale, but probably should at this point. It's got some nice fittings. I think it'll be like $1,500 or something like that, which isn't, I don't know. It's not bad, but it's nothing. It's a good beginner piece if you're interested in Nihonto, but certainly nothing of particular merit. This is a Citadel bag, but it's not a Citadel. This is the Chris Ju blade. I'm maybe saying that wrong, but it has Jeffrey Robinson fittings on it, and I sent this blade to Josiah to have polished, and it is a sight to behold every time I look at it. This is an absolutely stunning polish. Josiah did a wonderful job on it, and it always looks wet. It's in oil right now, so it kind of is, but it always looks so pretty. It's laminated. I can see the line on there. The finishing is clean and nice. Yes. Anyway, so Chris Yu is a Chinese swordsmith, and he won a like 2006 competition, and the original owner of this blade commissioned it from him, and it was a couple $1,000s to have him do a bare blade. And now he is a more highly regarded smith, and I haven't been able to contact him to get a hold of it. Some people speculate that it is or isn't, but the person that I bought this from is somebody I bought a number of high-end blades from. I have no reason not to trust him, but it's tough to get prestige on the sword. If nothing else, though, it is a spectacular looking sword, and it looks and Josiah did a really beautiful job polishing it. I should take this out more often. It's so pretty. Josiah did such a good job. Hey, Center, what's your preference in size? Do you follow the arm fold in? Personally, I like a between 30 and 31 inch sword. If 29 and a half inches will do it. 30 to 31 inches would be my preference in terms of negation, not measured from the. Well, you get it. If you're watching me, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's my preference. I then can't cheat. I have very few swords that have been that long. I don't think there's any that I currently have that are that long. But if I get to choose, I go that way, and then I can't cheat. I can't cheat. I have to do no-toe and all that kind of stuff right. Excuse the other sounds. This is a chore. Other folks live here, so they're making noise. This is my tencho from Motohara. I don't have to clean this too much. I use it often enough. Stack of swords. This is a Ronin Katana. An RK blade. They sent me an extra one, and I don't intend on breaking it. So this is one that I'll keep around as an example of good. I have a video that features it coming in the not too distant future. Am I missing anything? Yeah, some of the shorter swords, the ones that I can do, you know, this Ronin Katana. If I stand here, I don't have to move my hips to draw the sword, right? So ideally, I would have to pull and twist my hip back to do it, and I don't have to do it with some of the kind of more common lengths of swords. So I like longer swords, and when they're done well, I like the feel of them. It's just very rare to get one. This is another antique. This one, interestingly, has a gold May on it. I think it's fake, though, but it's cool looking. No, not that cloth. You might be a fake, but you get the nice cloth. All right. Do this. This is the Pavel Bolf folded blade. I think I have this one up for sale right now. Pavel does really good work on swords. I think he's had some trouble filling orders, or did last time I looked. I'm not sure if anything is different, but he's certainly a talented craftsman. If there's a sword up and you have the chance to buy it, I certainly have no hesitation in recommending. He does really good work. This is one of his folded blades. It's not his mount work, but there's a lot to like about the sword. It has a small kind of imperfection here, but other than that, it's nice, and this is done in a cool. Anyway, I did a video on it some time ago. It's a very nice sword. I think I really like Pavel's work. I haven't seen Rado's sword, and he's also really talented in a similar price category. I think if I were to buy one today, I'd probably try a Rado sword. I really love the things that I'm seeing, but I've never actually gotten to hold any of his work. So, but a lot of people seem very happy with him. So, but I also really have been very happy with Pavel Bolf's work as well. Why am I selling it then is usually a follow-up question, and that is, it's not my size. I bought it secondhand. I've enjoyed having it, seeing it, and that's, you know, if you're interested in this hobby, just something that is unfortunately the only way I've found to get to see and experience all these things is to buy them and then try to move them along. All right. We're down to the nubbins. This is the Naginata, and then I will do this one last. It's a sword I like. But I'll talk about this Naginata rather than just wipe it off. This is a Sabersmith Naginata. I went from having no Naginata to having two of them, neither one really sufficient in size to train with, but I think this only has a pin that probably goes down to here, which is not really sufficient. And again, a round handle, so I can't I can't index it particularly well. But it's fun to have at least something to play with in the size. And the shaft is straight, so that's nice. Do any of your katana have a utility knife built into the scion? No, I did a Wakizashi just a little bit earlier from Sword Friend Ian that had the Kozuka in it, but that is the only one that I have. Otherwise, no, I don't have the. I don't have anything with that feature. There's the Kozuka, then there's the. I can't remember what the little ear pick is. Glad you like the Suba. Hopefully I'm getting everyone's questions. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up pretty soon here. After I do this one, I will be done cleaning. And it only took 4 hours of streaming. This is a Rick Barrett katana. It's one that I believe I also have up for sale. I bought it some years ago. I got a really good deal on it. And it's an amazing sword. It's really, really cool. And a unique one from Rick. There's a lot of unique pieces from Rick Barrett. He does a lot of mono steel pieces that are great for practitioners. He did 1075 pieces and W2 pieces. I think I saw on his site or Instagram or something as well. He has like one that he recently finished. He has like this wall of unfinished projects. And over the last decade, he's kind of been, he doesn't make new ones, but he had so many unfinished ones that he's been working through that there's a chance to get a new one from him as well. But this was a project that was made out of old swords. So he took Nihonto, old antique Japanese swords that were worse for wear, and then forged a new sword out of them. So that's really cool. And it's a neat blade, neat story. It has Loman or some sort of kind of cast fittings on it that aren't as special as the blade. But the blade itself took a really substantial amount of time. I remember talking to Rick about it, and he mentioned how much time he had spent on the sword. So it's a pretty cool one. It's a fun one to look at. It's laminated, and you can kind of make out some of that. But there's just, I don't know. It's an awesome sword. This one is another one that I tend to take out periodically to stare at. I think my CLP just ran out too, so I have another one here, but got one round of cleaning done with the bottle. It's so pretty. It's got a great polish, really stunning sword. Small though, but it's a looker. Anyway, that's all the swords now. Then I have now cleaned all of the swords that need cleaning anyway. I haven't done my Yaido or like maces or axes or any of that stuff, but I did all the things I think that need cleaning now. Where was I? Do you have any? No. What Sageo is that? I don't know which Sageo. A center. I missed. Anyway, all right, that's it. That's cleaning day. I'm going to stop cleaning now and be done and put these swords away, and I won't make you watch for that. This one was a little less talky. In retrospect, having swords that I'm cleaning and then being nervous to talk over is probably not great for a stream, but you get some idea. If you have any questions, I'll stick around for a couple minutes and I'll try to answer any for those of you that have been so patient being here and watching me do the dishes. So if there's any questions, throw them in there now and I'll blab for a couple minutes, but I don't have any other fun stuff to show you or do any more chores. Well, I have other chores, but it's mowing the lawn. You want me to stream that? I would hope not. Though it is blade related, just a big spinning one. Kingfisher, yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed. Hopefully some amount of blabbing about them was interesting. I think the majority of these I've got in content. Yesterday was a lot of stuff that I don't think I've talked about or showed before, so maybe that was more interesting. I'm not sure, but once a year I might do a cleanie stream and you'll see some of these and maybe some new faces again. Yes, that's after being married for 20 years, doing the dishes is about the most attractive thing about me. Moving along with the katana, that I've been tempted to take some of the broken katana and try to make a lawnmower blade, but then I thought that might go horribly wrong, and I like having ankles. But katana forged out of a lawnmower blade. I think there's probably YouTube videos about that already. Well, anyway, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of questions, so I appreciate it. I'll stop here. Thanks, everyone, for keeping it fun, hopping in, asking me questions, keeping it lively. I hope this was interesting. I guess let me know if it's something that you'd like to see me do. I don't clean them but once every 6 months to a year, but if this is a thing that is worth doing on stream, let me know, and I can stream it. It never dawned on me to have a cleany stream before, but it is a good chance to do what I just did. So anyway, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for watching. Cheers.